Hi, good night. We're here in Community Advisors RSR. My name is Raimundo Reyes. I'm the host for Community Advisor RSR. Co-host Eduardo Rodriguez from LULAC District Council 18. Maria couldn't join us today. She's also a co-host. And today we're going to be talking about how domestic politics affects international politics. Right now we're dealing with an election here domestically. The presidential election, very important. Hopefully everybody's voting. And whoever gets elected is going to have an effect on international politics. We have a lot of There's a lot of issues happening, a lot of things happening in the political arena, international political arena. We still have the Syrian conflict. We still have in Libya the conflict. We have a new conflict that just came up. A new problem, the war in the Caucasus, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and here in Latin America, in Bolivia, Evo Morales got elected, and we had with Mexico that former top military Cienfuegos got arrested here in the states. So there's a lot happening, and all of that, and there's an election happening as well. So people are watching that in their nations, and people are taking steps how to interact whenever whatever happens. For example, there was an interesting article that I saw in the news. They were talking about Turkey and the European Union and the United States. So a lot of things are happening. And so before we talk into the topics into international politics, Eduardo.
Yeah, so my name is Ed Rodriguez, and I'm one of the deputy district directors for LULAC here in Houston, in District 18. And we have a lot of information that we have to do with regards to international politics. Why is that a big deal? Well, it's a big deal even to LULAC. LULAC has a lot of things that we do as far as immigration, as far as dealing with the different countries and the consulates and what have you. Not just people that here undocumented, but even the people that are here with residency. Sometimes they'll get a job at a very nice place, like say maybe AT&T, and then something will happen. They'll get hurt or what have you, and then they try to get some help, medical help, or they may need to seek some kind of legal advice. And the big corporations like AT&T may give them a hard time. We step in when we are asked to, and we talk with the consul and get the consuls involved. That becomes an international deal. Why? AT&T doesn't only deal with things here in the United States. They're all over the world. They provide fiber optics all over the world and the training that goes along with it and so on and so on. So international politics affects you even, you may not realize it, but to give you an idea, if you drive a foreign car, you are a person who is benefiting from international politics. So that every single day something happens. Here in this area, I got one even better than that. How many people here love avocados on their tacos? Hey, that's international politics. Yep, even an avocado. So we got a lot to talk about tonight, and hopefully we'll be able to have some fun because even though it sounds boring and dry, it's really cool. It's something that everybody should kind of keep an eye on.
Yes, definitely. I agree with Eduardo, and it's probably some political scientists and people who like politics. They also saw recently an article where there was a few senators from the U.S. who sent a letter about complaining about the energy things that were happening in Mexico. So it's international politics, and whoever gets elected into office and the next term, that has a really really impact an effect, and we're gonna see that, and everybody's watching that election, the election, and hopefully everybody's voting, and hopefully you already voted. People who are watching us, if not, please go vote. You have until October 30th, and you have until November 3rd to go out and vote. So, if you already voted, it's way better because you avoid the big lines. But if you want to go, you can go on November 3rd with all the emotion, being waiting online, taking pictures. Hey, I'm voting, but definitely. So, Edward, you had a lot of experience. You have a lot of experience more in dealing with the federal government. Can you give us a little explanation of the effects of how you know the change in office, the presidency, how the engagement with other nations in the U.S. Other than that change based on the person who's in office?
Okay, well, that's a very good question. And the way it works is this way. When a president takes over, he has what they call an agenda. In other words, he has some ideas how he wants to run the country, or he wants to guide the country in a certain direction. Well, the way you do that is by getting, people through the crisis of whatever is going on. Now, that could be a war in another country. That could be economic, that could be business, that could be international agreements, that could be legal stuff. There's a lot of things that go on. But in the end, it depends on what the president's trying to do. Is he trying to make us look good and strong in other countries, internationally, or is he just trying to make us look good and strong here locally so that our people can, take a breather and be able to make some money, maybe get a business going or what have you. This president that we have right now is business oriented. So he sees everything in the sense of a business. So his international politics has to do with how he can make money for the United States. He looks, I think, and I may be right or may be wrong, who knows, but it seems like he looks at the United States as a business. And he's trying to figure out how to best take care of my employees, us, the U.S. citizens and the people that reside here, and how best to generate more income and make this company more profitable. In this case, the United States. So by doing that, you have to have leverage in the political ring, you have to have leverage in the financial ring, and you have to have leverage in the intellectual ring as well. Because the guys who have the brain power usually are the ones that are able to get what they want. We have unbelievable entrepreneurs, people like Bill Gates, people that that own Facebook, like Mark Zuckerberg and all these other guys. This is very important because this is what drives the economy in our country. But other countries like Japan and India, intellectually, they have a big a big footprint on the international scale. So we have to work with them on international politics because we need them. I don't know if you've noticed, but if you got in a call recently because you had a computer that's not working right, your internet is down, and you're trying to figure out how to make it work, and you dial the number, it actually goes a lot of times to India, all the way across the ocean to a call center in India, and they answer all your questions. Well, the reason that happens is because there are things that are called international agreements. And these international agreements are entered into by the two parties, which is India and the United States. That's international politics. Nobody's going to go out there and say, hey, I want to start a call center in India. And India's going to say, yeah, go ahead, man. Don't worry about it. Just buy this and you're good to go. It doesn't work that way. When we go and try to do things like that in other countries, our politicians become very important. They're the ones that go out there and they say, okay, we have people who want to invest in your country. How do we do it? What do we got to do? And what do you want in return? Because believe it or not, they're going to want something. That's just how it works. So these agreements, they help everybody, but it is something that's very important. You put the right president in the office and you can get some great results. You put the wrong guy in, you can get some lousy results. But in either case, you're going to get a result. How does it affect us here? How best for me to say it this way? What has that got to do with the potholes in my neighborhood? Well, believe it or not, it has a lot to do with the potholes in my neighborhood because asphalt is regulated by the Clean Air Act. The Clean Air Act is regulated by the international associations or the international coalitions such as the United Nations. And that's, done with a clean, what is it called? The G8 pack that is done with, so everybody has even China can sit there and say, hey, you're filling in too many potholes. It's causing methane to rise. It's amazing. Little bitty things like that have a big impact. Or here's another one. You know what? The road is so bad, we're going to tear out the road. We're just going to put some brand new asphalt on the whole road, and we're going to be able to. Well, if the company doesn't treat, and I mean literally treat the dirt correctly, if it doesn't put the proper linings, if it doesn't put the proper dirt and requirements that it needs for that asphalt, asphalt is just nothing but oil, tar, and rocks. That's it. And you know what happens to that stuff when it rains? It seeps into the ground. So if the ground is not properly taken care of, that stuff seeps into the water system, which you and I drink. So that's governed by an international agreement. For us not to do that, we need to take care of our water. So there's a lot of things that go on like that.
Definitely, I agree. Everything, everything involves international politics. Like Eduardo said, like potholes and also what you buy, like a bottle of water, believe it or not, sometimes. Oh, and the beloved coffee.
Woo, yes. Oh man. Hey, Juan Valdez, man, he's not from this country. We have to go down there to Central America, to Colombia, and get Juan Valdez to help us pick some beans, coffee beans, so we can come up here and sell you a cup of coffee for $2 or $3. When over there, you can just pick it off the tree. So there you go. But yeah, that's an agreement too. Yeah, it's amazing how much stuff that we have that a lot of people don't realize uh, has to do with international politics. Nafta, remember Nafta? That was a big deal. That's now changed to the Canadian
Oh,
American Mexican program or act or something like that. All that's international. When somebody comes in from another country on an airplane, when they land here, we as the United States have to allow them to come into our country if they meet certain qualifications. And if they're not, we have to make arrangements to send them back. You know that we're not allowed by law. We can't just send people back when we want to. We have to notify the consul. We have to allow the consul and the ambassador of those countries to say, yep, that person belongs to me. If they say, nope, that person doesn't belong to me, I can't send them back to that country. Even though that plane came from their country, I can't send them back to that country. Why? International agreement. So there's just so many things that we do. So this election is very, very important because the right candidate could help us do a lot of great things on an international level that helps us here in the United States, either with a cost of fuel or the cost of food or the cost of just doing business every day. So even the person who, like I said, the little guy here in Houston who has a food truck and he's selling tacos in the morning and he's throwing on a big old slab of avocados, that avocado is being affected by our politicians.
definitely agreed. What Eduardo said, it's definitely everything. It's government, and everybody has to deal with each other. And believe it or not, even it's like a big family, and everybody has to deal with everyone. And sometimes there's conflicts, but even whenever there's conflict, they still have to deal with each other. And oil, it's an important that everybody knows. You had OPEC plus, and you have the energy, and it's a big deal. And like Eduardo said, whoever gets elected and gets to make those decisions, and it's very important. Eduardo, can we talk about maybe for a little bit how each candidate or each person that stands based on their policies, where they stand, not necessarily whether or not they're good or bad. We let that for the public to decide. But so if the current president gets reelected, he wouldn't, he's not gonna go into the climate accord. I think that's the the climate accord deal. So, but if Biden gets reelected, he's gonna get into a climate accord. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. They call it the Paris Accords,
Paris Accord.
and yeah, he gets an opportunity to sit there and say, I want to be a part of it or not be a part of it, which he did. And he has an opportunity to say that he's going to be going back or not going back if he gets reelected. Right now, we're not part of it because he got out of it because he felt that we were not being treated fair. We were paying almost 150 billion or 1.5 trillion, it's something like that, and China and some others were only paying like 38 million, literally nothing. and he had a problem with that, which is fine. I have heard him say, but I only heard him say about once, about 4 months ago, that that it would be something he would look into about rejoining if everybody was paying their equal share. So he's
Yeah.
not saying it's a bad deal; it's a good deal, and that's an important deal. Is that the only thing that we have? No, we also have the international market of OPEC. OPEC deals with all of the fossil fuels. That's
Yep.
oil, natural gas, gasoline cells, and that's important because every country in the world relies on fuel for one thing or another, either for the boats going in the ocean, for the jet fighters that are used in their military, for transporting people back and forth all over the world, the trains that deliver goods and products from city to city. So there's a lot of things that go on there. And if that's not taken care of and monitored correctly, then we have a problem with that. And that's an international accord. When OPEC sits there and they decide whether the price of gas goes up or down, there's an international agreement in place that they have to notify the countries with enough time for us to go ahead and get a hold of our financial people, which we call the Fed, and start looking at maybe we have to raise the interest rate or lower the interest rate so we can kind of keep the price of gas in our country at a decent price. Right now is a very good example. We have COVID going on right now, which was an international incident, and he's having to deal with international politicians every single day. But the price of gas relatively, has stayed very low. I mean, guys, let's face it, when we were doing really good about 2 years ago, the price of gas was getting close to $3. It has stayed under $2 for the most part during this whole thing so far. Is that great news? Yeah, it's awesome news because we have an opportunity to go out and do some things. And here's the deal behind that is it's called um, demand. The price goes up or down with the demand of the product. So the more demand there is, then the price goes up. So they can kind of keep it at a place where they don't sell all the gas. If there's no demand, they try to sell more and drop the price so you buy more. And that's one of the things that's going on right now. It's interesting because there's still a steady demand, but the prices stay low, and that's something that needs to be looked into. It's great. Now, the other side of the coin is we have President candidate President presidential candidate Biden, who he also has some ideas on how he wants to do things. He said that if he comes into office, he's going to want to look at joining the Accords really quick, getting back in there, going and back into the United Nations and start working with them again, and dealing with China on a steady basis. So he's got international ideas that he thinks are going to be more beneficial to the country and to the relationships in general. So is that going to have an effect on us? Yeah, it's going to have a major effect. Now, do the prices go up or down? We're not really going to know until we get an opportunity to get there. A lot of times, initially, the price will go up a little bit until everything kind of settles down, and then we'll get back to a good location. The good thing about our country is that private companies and private individuals, this country, Britain, Australia, Canada, and a couple of other first what we call first world countries are the citizens and the companies are allowed to engage in international trade on their own. They don't necessarily need a politician to help them out. Although eventually you're going to get one involved, but you're allowed to go out there and start setting up things. Like I can go down to Mexico and open an office if I want to open one. Now, I, not being a citizen of Mexico, can't do that. I have to get somebody who's a citizen of Mexico to be able to do that because the laws down there are different than here. But it doesn't mean that I can't go do that. I can, and I don't need a politician to help me or all that stuff. But we could. I mean, I could end up in some trouble, or I do something wrong, and then I have to get that guy to help me out. But for the most part, we're able to do that, and that's only because our political leadership has such a great relationship internationally with a lot of countries, and it gives us that opportunity to be a little bit more flexible with our people. So it's amazing how things work out.
Definitely, I agree. Yeah, definitely. Everybody works for each other. Everybody has a platform, and they're not both candidates. As in now, both candidates have their policies, their platforms, and international politics, and we obviously know how one wants to engage and how the other wants to engage, and we're not stating our opinions. We're saying that whatever we have seen, but you can see clearly what has happened, and you can always go into the websites. You can always Google some articles, and you will find them. We're not saying nothing that it's not true. We're saying facts, and it's there, and they have spoken about it, and if someone has retracted from a statement, that's on them, but as it is, we conducted research a couple, for to prepare for this show, and as it is, before we went live, everything was still, factual. It was still facts, what I'm trying to say. And so you can always look at their policies have a great effect on us, us, the American people who live inside the United States. It has a great effect, and because of prices of things, and you can see it, and sometimes things happen. For example, we all know what was happening. When the China and the United States went at it, when everybody was calling it like there was having some disputes on their economies and fighting, and the farmers, they talked about it and everything. So it has an effect. You have to actually see it and see it, and why it's important in international politics, and why we did this show today to talk about it, the importance of international politics. And for Hispanic and Latinos, it's very, very important, because also part of our community, you know, a big part of our community, immigration. It's a hot topic, and that deals with international politics, because how does the United States government, whoever wins the election, how are they gonna interact with other nations? How are they gonna interact with them? Is it gonna be a friendly relationship, as we're equals, or has it going to be the relationship? Or how does the caravans and all of that? All of that is international politics, and it has to be fix, and they have to work around it and fix the situation, and it's like it is not like the president who is here in the States tells the president from other nations to do what they want them to, what the president of the United States wants them to do. They're not gonna follow right away, so they have to work with each other and figure out a solution, because they also, domestically, all those presidents, all those governments, they also have elections, and they also have people. They also think, they also believe, and they also have their own opinions and ideas, and so everybody has to work with each other.
Well, not only that, we also have something else that's just as important, and like you said, with the Latinos especially, the Latin community is something that's very unique in the United States, and is also very unique in the world. One of the things that a lot of times we don't hear, but we should, and that is the fact that if you were to take the United States, we're going to leave Canada where it's at right now, because Canada really doesn't have much of an influence on anything. But if you take the United States out and you were to switch the United States with Spain, 1/3 of the world speaks Spanish. 1/3, from top to bottom. We as Latinos, we actually control 1/3 of the entire world. No other race says that. No other race has that much land. We're the only ones. So why is international politics important to us? Well, it's important because there's a lot of things that we have that we could use to make things better for ourselves. Then why aren't we being more, effective in the United States and in Central America? Well, it comes down to one thing: money. Some countries make more money than others. Could we do a better job? Yeah, but there's problems in this. The problem is that we have people in office, not just here, but in other countries, who don't want to solve the problems. There's more money to be made by having a problem. You have to understand that. I know that sounds crazy, but listen to me. One of the big things that I always compare things to on politics is the potholes in my community. Well, that's what we're talking about here. There's guys, believe it or not, who sit in the city and in the county, and they sit there with trucks loaded with asphalt, but they're not going to go out there and fix those potholes. Why not? Well, we get paid by the hour, see? And we don't want to go out there and just fill them all. Because if we fill them all, guess what happens? We're out of work. I got to go home to mom and tell her, hey, I got fired today because I filled all the potholes. Wait a minute, you did your job and you got fired? Yep, there's no more work. It's done. So something happened a long time ago in the 50s and 60s where that mindset switched off and we changed everything. You realize that you can go out literally and find a body of a 1965 Mustang, almost rusted out. It looks so bad, but you can take that, go out there and clean it all up, literally clean the metal up and put it back together again, and that sucker will run for another 50, 60, 100 years. You cannot do that with modern technology. You cannot do that with a modern car. You just can't do that. Everything is designed to fail so that we can keep that machine moving in the same direction. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it depends. If you're a businessman, it's a great thing. But if you're a person who just needs something that works, it's a bad thing because you're going to have to end up buying something else. But at the same time, that's what we're talking about. There's problems that exist in Central America with the cartels, the drugs, the politics, the corruption, the fact that there's diseases and not enough food to feed people. There's a lot of things that are going on, and these problems can be solved. But people make money by those problems existing, and they don't want those things to go away. And I hate to say that, but that's the truth. I can refer to something that I did or something that happened to me a long time ago. When I first started out as a police officer, one of the places that I was working, I was involved in a what they called a drug task force, and the DEA was running it, and it was called Operation Pipeline. We were trying to stop the drugs coming in from Mexico up through New Mexico and Texas Panhandle, and we were busting people left and right. Me and my partner, we were doing a great job. What ended up happening was the guy calls us into the office. The DEA agent in charge, he calls us into the office and he says, "Hey, you guys got to slow down." And we said, but are we supposed to be doing that? Well, yeah, but you're doing too good of a job. And we're like, what? And he goes, well, look, let me explain to you. I've been with the DEA for 34 years. I'm from Lubbock, and that's where the office was. And now I'm going to retire in about another 2 years. I'm going to retire right here in Lubbock. Okay, what does that got to do with us? Well, if you do too good of a job and you arrest all the drug dealers, they're going to close this office and they're going to move me somewhere else. So when I retire, I have to pay to move all my furniture back here to Lubbock. But if we don't bust everybody, I get to stay here as the officer in charge. And when I retire, I already have the house here. I ain't got to move nothing. So I know it sounds crazy, but that's what his whole motivation was. They're paying me to stay here where I want to be. And therefore, he didn't want to solve the problem. We got other guys like that all up and down, and every country has people like that. And that's one of the things that we'll have to deal with. Because I'm telling you, there are programs in place right now that we can use to make things happen. But people out there, politicians here and in other countries, don't want that to happen. So having a president that you feel is the right person for this country to lead this country is essential. We've got to have the right guy. How do we get that guy? You who have the ability and the authority and are eligible and registered to vote, you've got to vote. It is so important that you vote.
All right, thank you, Edward, for sharing that information. And international politics is very interesting. That being said, thank you for joining us today on Community Advisors RSR. And you know, on Wednesday we're gonna have the show, and it's gonna be in Spanish, and it's gonna be all as interesting as today. And we're gonna be talking more about how domestic politics affects international politics, but more specifically to the Hispanic and Latino community. We started the show obviously mentioning all the conflicts that are happening, and the United States has us a lot of say in how to solve those problems, because everybody, whenever a conflict starts, they look to the United States to try to solve that problem.
Yeah.
But community advice RSR, it's focused on the Hispanic and Latino community, and present that information and how this is going to affect the Hispanic and Latino community. We're going to be talking about it in Spanish on Wednesday, so join us at 8 p.m. Uh, for an hour and 15-minute show. It's going to be very interesting, and in the following, as we get closer to the election, we're gonna be having some shows talking about politics, and directly into politics, and we're gonna provide as much information as possible, but based on facts. And we obviously conduct research. We research, we find sources, and we do our best to provide accurate information. But if sometimes information changes like last minute, there's not, there isn't anything that we can do, because right now we're speaking, but something might have changed already, because that this is politics. It changes, quickly. One thing that I have come to learn in politics, even in here locally, is that it changes. The situation changes in a minute. And so, and just a friendly reminder, maybe Edward can comment more about this. We have a new Supreme Court judge. Is that correct, Edward?
Yeah, the person that they've nominated, Miss Barrett, has been confirmed. She has been sworn in. She is now an associate justice of the United States Supreme Court, and that has a big impact on the international politics because we have a lot of cases that are in our judicial system of lawsuits and stuff that we have concerning other countries. When something happens, like for instance, a lot of people are getting ready to file a lawsuit against China in because of the COVID deal. They're saying that this is something that may be able to be proved in court, and maybe we should go ahead and file against them. We've had international terrorists. Like one time we had back in the 70s, there was a plane that was blown up over Lockerbie, Scotland, and everybody on board died. The families filed a lawsuit against, I think it was Iran, because they're the ones supposedly the terrorists came from there. That happens in our international courts. That happens in our Supreme Court. So it's a big deal, And this one justice could have something to do with that. The bottom line is, again, everybody in our system, one way or another, has something to do with international politics because of different things that go on. If a person gets arrested, we have an international agreement that we must advise the local council for that individual's country to let them know. If they're not citizens of the United States, or if you're a resident or no documents, papers and no papers, doesn't make a difference. The only people that don't do that, or we don't do that for, is United States citizens. But the consul has to be informed. If you're found in a hospital unconscious, and we have an idea who you might be because we see the marticula, we get a hold of that consul and let them know so that they know that you're here hurting and they need to take care of you. So there's a lot of things that go on, and all of that is international politics, every bit of it, or foreign relations, which is another word that we can use. But either way, we need to know a little bit more. And believe it or not, I think, in my opinion, anyways, that a lot of the people that arrive here without documents from Central and South America that are Latinos, they probably know a lot more about politics, international politics, than most Americans.
And I will second that comment. And because they have to, get their passports, they have to get their identifications, and that's a process. And whenever they don't have the documents, they have to get their documents from their native countries, and then get those documents here, have them with them, and go inside their consulates or embassies and get those get their matricula or passport ready. But they have to show that proof, and there's a lot of things that happen, and also with business. So, and um, So that's very interesting, and a lot of people have to deal with it whenever they're not, originally from a country. I assume that American citizens who live in abroad, they also have to deal with international politics. If you're living in Japan, or you're living in another country, Europe, and you have to deal with the consulate and passports and all, and vote, like voting as well.
Yeah,
So
and that's a very good point, because a lot of people that are out of the United States don't realize you can vote at an embassy. You can go to the embassy and they'll give you the what is it called? Oh man, I forgot what it is. Absentee ballot, and you're able to vote for whatever country, every state you want, or whatever city you want. Yeah, you have the right to go ahead and do that. So you got to keep those things in mind. There's a lot of things out there.
yeah. So thank you everyone for watching us tonight. Thank you for being with us. This it's 9:22 p.m. It's really it's night. We're drinking coffee and talking about international politics. Politics. Who wouldn't want to do that? Talk in the night of politics. Everybody wants to hear about politics.
Yep.
So have a great night. Stay safe, and we see you on Wednesday.
You guys take care.